This hand is beautiful. I mean, look at the artwork in this hand. I've got to keep it based on just... It's got the lands, right? It's got the beautiful artwork. What more could you need? Just look at that extended artwork. Crazy. Jingataxius, which actually doesn't work with any of the cards in our hand. But we shall see. So Croxet and Kunaros wants to fill their graveyard with lots of cards, including creatures, hopefully more than 6 cards, and then when this comes down, they'll exile 5 cards from the graveyard in order to return a creature card from the graveyard to the hand. And I would go for Talrand there, but I'd rather have Talrand plus Pact, just in case. Well, to be honest, I might even give a Jingataxius with Pact, because keeping Jin alive is going to be pretty awesome in order to just draw cards. Are they going to have Reprieve? Or Mana Tithe? Okay, and we've got Ward 2, which means they currently can't kill it. Well, they can now. Demon's Disciple, they're going to make us sack. Well, we've got Pact, so we're going to stop that happening. And they missed a land drop. So it looks like they've got lots of like sack effects like this. They're very close to getting the Crocs and Kunaros. And that's the power of a Pact, guys. Just stopping your opponent the turn after you play a huge spell like this makes Pact so creative, because most people think you're defenseless, but by playing this in your deck, it means you can kind of go willy-nilly, playing your top-end creature, and then just saying, come at me, bro. What can we possibly have? Pacting wins games. So Luna Apex of Wishes is normally a combo build, because they just combo into stuff like Omniscience, but we'll give it a go. I really like Discover the Formula here, especially in a hand with a bit of ramp. So they normally go for creatures in the deck that are made via instants and sorceries, so no actual permanents. But we'll see. This could just be a generic mutate build. Okay. Maybe it isn't. Maybe there is actual... Maybe there are counter spells. Let's see. Is it a counter build? Could have just Lightning Bolt, though. Shock, Lightning Bolt? Which one? Bounce? Cathartic Pyre, that's something you don't see very often. It's modular, though, so I can see why people do choose to use it. I'm not a huge fan of this, because... I don't know, it just feels kind of meh. Iteration. This card is banned in Modern, I think. So powerful. Looking at the top 3. It's like they put Brainstorm and an Impulse effect on each card. At least Beacon Bolt will be... So that's in the graveyard, okay. Oh no, they chose to exile that. That's gone forever. Okay, sure. Let's foretell the Raven form. And... You don't want to draw here? Okay, let's just cycle through our cards. Get rid of the Mind Stone. The Brazen Borrower is going to come in very handy for one reason. If they play a creature instant speed, we'll have a way to bounce it to their hand. Because if their deck's built correctly, they'll only have Omniscience in the deck as a permanent. Counter spell as well. So we can actually put Charter Course on top. Not that exciting, but it's a draw 2 spell for 2. Okay, let's see what they do. So because the hand is so stacked, it's a bit scary. They could make a creature instant speed. Arcane Infusion. So they can look at the top 4 and put a spell into their hand. Okay. I feel like this is definitely the combo build here. Path to the Festival. So that's going to let them ramp. They're going to foretell. Are we going to get to resolve this, discover the formula? Negate. God damn. That's pretty annoying, but oh well. Try and get some value with Talrand. It's surprising that they have so much disruption, because normally these Ghidorah decks, sorry, these Illuna decks, are basically just... They just care about ramping and then mutating onto a tiny creature. But the fact they've killed one of our things and countered our cards, yeah, don't normally see that. Have another kill spell. Prismari Command. Oh my goodness. So they're going to kill two of them. They've had the upper hand the whole game here. Sure thing. Let's go for Gale, return a spell back to our hand. So at least we get to discover the formula back. It would be crazy if we already resolved that once, but our spells would be so much cheaper by now. But yeah, Gale's pretty good. I don't know if we should be Mythic though, because when we specialise it, it basically becomes cast an instant sorcery, draw a card, then discard. It's okay. Nothing amazing. They chose Dinosaur for the type. How quaint. So it's only 5... So it's 6 to mutate. So they currently can't play a creature and mutate. Unless, of course, they had the... There's the Greenland, which comes in with a 0/1. Kalni something. But they've just played a land, so they can't be doing that here. Pirate's Pillage. Lots of support cards. Let's have another kill spell. Just full of kill spells. Okay. It's pretty annoying, not gonna lie. I'm actually very begrudging to use a Chuck course now, because I want to get as much value as possible. I'm just not gonna do it. Eight mana open. Pirate's Prize. Okay, just draw and make more treasures. I mean, if they have Mizzix's Mastery in the deck, we're in a lot of trouble. Notice how they're almost all instants as well. That's kind of crazy, right? They really want to be interacting. Okay, we'll go for the Gate to the Sea Tower then. Reality Chip. Okay. Are we going to be able to resolve anything here? We are. Gear Hulk on top. That's kind of cool. Especially with the Discover the Formula in hand. Being able to play that would be ludicrous. I'm just a bit concerned at what they're going to do at instant speed. Arcane Infusion again. Using all their treasures though. They must be desperate to do something. Saruman's Trickery. Counter a spell. Sure. Looks like we might be having a counter battle then. Interestingly enough, the Reality Chip has 0 power, but even if you do attack with this, we still get to draw 2 cards with Shutter Course and not discard. Kind of funny. Just going to pass. Okay. Inventive Iteration. I really would like to just keep hitting my land drops, but... Attack for 0. What are they going to do? Flash in a blocker? As if they've got Ramming Up Ruins in the deck. Why, that feels a bit sus, to be honest. Come on, there's got to be a land somewhere, right? Oh my goodness. Where are the lands? Okay, I guess we're just going to discard then. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Commence the end game. So that's what they're going to mutate onto. We can't counter this, and they're going to get a huge creature. So, interestingly, if we resolve this, we will not have to discard. They've got 1 mana open. What's it going to be? Oh, so now we don't have to discard. Thank you, opponent. And we still have the counterspell open as well. That worked out pretty nicely. But they do have almost enough mana for the Omniscience itself. I would love to be able to exile their graveyard somehow, but I do not think we are going to be able to. So if Mizzix's Mastery is in their deck, we are in some trouble here. Search for a Canter. There's a land on top. So even if this gets countered, we still have the counter spell and the offer you can't refuse. Are they going to get another instant speed creature here? That would be kind of irritating, but we know their game. We know their game because we've lost to it many times. If you want to kill the reality chip, go for it. I'm not even that bothered. We've got nothing to equip it to. Melt through. 2 damage. Okay, so they're going to have to use another spell here, or that's just wasted. And they're going to counter it and amass. So that's weird, right? If we use this hexproof here, does that just fizzle the Saruman's Trickery? Does it work like that? Oh, I'm not going to risk it. I'm just going to counter the Saruman's Trickery here, which is a bit weird. Although, actually, I should have probably countered the melt. Oh, no. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that was a bit risky. We can tell they are desperate to get any creature of any sort out, though. That's for sure. And they have another land destruction thing here. Flippin' heck. The deck is so weird. It's like every land to confuse me. So we can scry 2. We might as well. Probably put a couple of lands on top would be nice, I think. We don't want the Guardian Idol. Okay, we'll keep that. And sure, my goodness, this is a grindy game. And I have a bad feeling we're just going to lose out of nowhere. The issue is they have a steady hand of cards that we can't seem to get rid of. I know we do as well. And if they have another counter spell, I guess we'll just try Discover here, because if they counter this, then we still have the Torrential Gearhulk to do this later on. Disdainful Stroke. Sure. It's irritating, but at least we're seeing the cards in their hand, aren't we? Midnight Clock. That seems fine as well to keep. Gives us a bit of ramp and another land on top as well. We're going to want to keep a steady flow of lands here. And remember, the more counter spells they use early on, the fewer they have later. So they're going to just blow up the Rivendell. That is a shame. Which means they're going to get a 4/4. One, two, three. Okay, yeah, so we've just basically lost the blue mana. I can see why that land's in there now, just to create a 4/4 that we can't really interact with. That's the point, I guess. They only have 3 cards in hand. River's Rebuke. Oh my goodness. So, we don't want to try and counter this. But now they're going to get the Omniscience with the Ghidorah, which kind of sucks. Yeah, that does suck. I can't believe the River's Rebuke was the bait spell. Kind of crazy. How many cards do I have left? 7 cards left. Okay. That was pretty close. So, these are all exiled. Just FYI. Just trying to check if Mizzix's Mastery is in here. Magma Opus. Okay. Why do they want to deal 4 damage? Interesting. Okay. So 7 cards left. Don't want an untapped source now. So I have 1 card in hand. What could it be? What could it be? Let's test the waters with the Raven form here. Okay. So they've lost their creature. I mean, they're not going to mutate onto that again because they'll just lose the game, right? And I suppose we'll pass a turn with the Gearhulk up. Don't forget the Gearhulk can get any instant from the graveyard. And as long as the Omniscience is up, they don't have to spend any mana. So using the River's Rebuke kind of feels null and void because we'll get rid of the tokens, but if they replay the Omniscience, there's not going to be any issues, to be honest. Here comes Ghidorah again. But as I said, not really that threatening by itself. Let's go for the Gearhulk. Do they have any more counters? Counter target spell. Okay. That is pretty irritating, but what can we do? I guess we'll try and use this then. Slow them down a bit. Unless I've got yet another counter. Okay. Nice. But, as I said, it's not really going to do much if they can just replay the Omniscience. But they've only got 6 cards left. And Mizzix's Mastery is probably in there somewhere. It's not here. But would they even win with all that stuff? I don't know. Maybe. We shall see. I just can't believe they countered. So they basically countered, they discovered the formula twice, and they countered the way to get it back once as well. They countered literally every single thing. Kind of ridiculous. Okay. So let's try and bounce the Ghidorah to the hand again. Again, you know, purely, this is purely just trying to survive here. Fire Prophecy. They're actually gonna... Wow, okay. Just to cycle their hand and see what they've got. Sure thing. Man, this is painful. Thing is, even if they do have Mizzix's Mastery and let's say they draw cards, they've only got 4. So anything they have which draws a card will just kill them. Well, not anything, but, you know, anything that draws 4 or more. Wow, they are legit just going for it. If they use the Boon of the Wishgiver, I think they're just dead, right? What can they even do here? 2 cards left. Countered most of our spells. Valakut Awakening. Wow. Okay. Well. What was the point of that? I don't really understand. They just counted everything we had. So the normal way to win is Mizzix's Mastery, which is 8 mana overloaded to cast everything from the graveyard. It's not in the graveyard. It's not in exile. So I don't know. I feel like they were just kind of trolling us, weren't they? To be perfectly honest. Okay, so we're facing an OG Azorius deck. And we're going to mulligan that hand because it's just not very fast at all. So they're a flicker build. Let's get out of the way for his bauble as quickly as possible. I don't know why I turned into Sean Connery there. Okay, so we're probably just going to sacrifice this to ramp. +1 mana. I always forget that Wayfarer's Bauble is actually in the format. It's just kind of inconspicuous. The release of this was kind of random. I think it just came out in an anthology set. And pretty much everyone forgot because I really do not see it very often. Restoration of a Ganjo. Okay. So they're going to be ramping as well. And I really don't like playing Talrand out just by himself. I'd like to get him out with a bit of protection. Iteration can bounce something later on. I think we're just going to take it slow here. There's no reason to rush anything out. They're not threatening us. Their deck is a lot like Yorion, but it's just not as good, I don't think. I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Casting a second spell lets them flicker something. As foretold, that's quite a strong card. I think we might want to try and counter that. They gave us a 2/2 bird. That's what our deck wanted to do anyway. See if we can keep the Talrand alive. There's not much else we could have done, sadly. We can tap a creature that doesn't untap, exile a creature they don't have. Next turn will be a bit better. I feel like... Okay, so are they going to flicker this Architect or the Omen if they play a spell? I wonder. It's pretty versatile, being able to select the things they need. Offer, we can't refuse. So we can get the Wayfarer's Bauble back for the phase 2 of this. Do we want to bounce that back to the hand or the OG? Probably that, because I don't really want to take damage from that, really. They could have a count, some kind of hexproof. Essence Flux. Okay. So they're going to get to re-trigger that again. I'm really just not that bothered about those things. The As Foretold is getting to a point now as well where they have pretty much enough mana to do anything they want anyway. Returning the Birth of Meletis. Man, there's a lot of cogs moving parts here. Pretty cool. Swinging in with a 2/2. 2/3, sorry. Charming Prince. Right, okay, so I've just realised that OG can only flicker other creatures. Okay. But I'm sure there's other things in the deck like Yorion which will make them want to flicker everything else. 2 on top, blimey, that's concerning, isn't it? Invasion of Segovia is pretty good. We can get that to flip. Do we actually... No, I think we're just going to attack and just try and resolve the discover the formula, maybe. I don't know, but then we'll be able to keep it up with the... Do we just wait for the discover? I don't know. Yeah, I think we want to wait for it, actually, because if they counter it, we're going to lose 3 cards, and that's going to be really bad. And now we have the 2 mana up for either the Wayfarer's Bauble or an offer you can't refuse. Okay, and they've got loads of clown troops. I don't really feel like I should be too worried about those yet. They're swinging in with those 2. That's only going to be 4 damage. Let's keep our things, because if we can flip the invasion, then we're going to be able to untap our creatures, and then we can convoke spells. This is pretty awesome when it's flipped. Seek new knowledge. Okay. So it basically says draw 1 card overall. And once we flip the inventive iteration into the living breakthrough, this is going to be great as well, because we can deny them casting certain spells of a certain cost. Oracle of the Alpha. Now that is kind of irritating, because if they flicker that, they're going to get the power 9 over and over again. Which is certainly not what we want to see. And they also have a 2/3 flying blocker, which is pretty irritating. But we will have a 3/3. Ah, okay, and they had the mana for the removal. Damn it. That is pretty irritating. Very patient player. Very patient. Okay. Well, let's try and cast them again. We now have the offer you can't refuse up. And they can't cast anything that costs 4. I want to keep the Talrand out for as long as possible. Because if we cast spells without him out, it just feels like you're wasting time. I think I'm actually going to counter that. I really do not want them to get the power 9 over and over and over again. And they're going to sacrifice the treasures to make a 1/1. Okay. Not too scared of that. They're playing empty-handed, so they're top decking now. So what have they got? River's Rebuke. That is purely insane. They just top decked a River's Rebuke. Wow. I don't know what to say. Oh, that is brutal. Down to 13. That is actually brutal. Right, we're going to have to start rebuilding then. Maybe we exile Architect. Okay, and then we can leave the shore up as well. Jeez, that's pretty lucky. Some games you play that you just get no quarter at all. Wow, this is an aggressive attack. Okay. Let's give Talrand hexproof. And a counter. Well, sorry, +1/+1 turn. What are they going to have here? Board wipe. Baral. Okay, so I think we just leave up the mana here for the Discover. Actually, we could probably do it here, couldn't we? When they're kind of tapped out. I mean, I think they've already played pretty much the strongest card in the deck with the River's Rebuke, haven't they? So, Seagate Restoration. So they're going to draw 2 cards. 7 mana to draw 2 cards. Okay. They're tapped out, but they can cast one thing with the As Foretold. Let's tap down the OG here. We just need enough Drakes to take over the game, and we should be pretty good. So this perpetually gets 8 mana to... They need 8 mana to untap it, which is pretty good. 1 mana Baral is kind of crazy as well. They're going to counterspell a Baral. Sure. Why not? And what we're going to do is swing all the birds at the invasion to try and get that creature. Which is pretty damn good. So non-creature spells have Convoke, and at the beginning of your end step, untap 4 things. Kind of awesome. So we can bounce... I guess we'll get rid of the bird here. And then we'll be able to leave up pretty much all of our blockers. So what else could they play that would be equally as annoying as a River's Rebuke? Well, any number of extra turn effects, I suppose. But we do have press the enemy to bounce a spell back to the hand. They're going to have a 7/7. Let's see if we can return the As Foretold. Oh, okay. And I'm actually pretty tempted here to quadruple block. Because we can get our creatures back really easily. Wow. Wow. Interesting. We had 8 life. We managed to win. Just goes to show, never give up using Mono Blue. Thank you for joining me yet again for another video. Really appreciate it. Today we're looking back on Talrand, who is not that far away ago that I first made him. But I actually really appreciate how Mono Blue makes it kind of like a thinking man's game. And I know it's a bit toxic having all these counter spells and stuff, but to be honest, in the current meta, I don't even feel like it's that strong because you need the window to actually cast them. You need to basically go first in order to actually, you know, hit the targets you want to hit. If you're going second with counter spells, it's a huge difference, and you'll certainly feel it, especially when you go for turn 4 Talrand and no backup. It feels terrible. The best way to resolve and keep a Talrand is to wait till turn 5, where you can go for Talrand and something like a dive down. At that point, it's going to be pretty good because you'll have a 2/2 and you get to keep Talrand. The deck struggles to win in the early to mid game, but later on, once you've got lots of Drakes, you'll be able to do all sorts of funny business and take your opponents down, especially by equipping the swords. These are wonderful. The Sword of Once and Future, which gives your creatures pro blue and black, which is incredibly valid. And on a hit, lets you surveil 2 and cast a spell from your graveyard that costs 2 or less, which is very relevant because your Drakes will be then making more Drakes. Your Drakes are a Drake machine. Sword of Fortune Frontier is special and unique because it allows you to attack through green and red decks, which is quite tough to get through traditionally, and also lets you play additional lands on your turn. In order to win the end game, it gets a bit more interesting because we've got Arcane Proxy and Torrential Gearhulk, which come down as pretty decent bodies and allow you to play huge spells from your graveyard as long as they match the criteria. The best thing you can do with Torrential Gearhulk is cast Discover the Formula, which you saw in my gameplay proved to be very difficult, but that is the dream, of course. Gearhulk in to discover the formula twice is game ending, and your spells will probably cost 2 or 3 mana at that point, which is pretty awesome. They're already pretty cheap anyway. And you've got the stuff like Time Warp, which allows you to have an extra turn with all your Drakes. Leer lets you cast spells from your graveyard. Be wary that Leer says spells can't be countered, so just don't get caught out. Make sure to just use the bounce spells and other things, or somehow get rid of Leer and do your thing. Obviously, Leer plus Time Warp is ridiculous. The Reconnaissance mission is really nice as well, because once you've got 3 or 4 Drakes and you can get in through the air, having the Recon mission out means you'll be drawing so many cards and probably winning the game that way. The One Ring as well allows you to do similar, just draw over just such a huge amount of turns, and just you're going to overwhelm your opponent. If the One Ring is getting a bit cheeky and starting to deal 3 or 4 damage to you per turn, don't forget that Baral's Expertise can actually bounce the One Ring to your hand and then redeploy it, because you can play a spell that costs 4 less without paying its mana cost. That's a cheeky little interaction. And yeah, the rest of the deck is essentially a blue support strategy. It's got counter spells, bounce spells, draw spells, things to just trigger Talrand. Beautiful. So I hope you've enjoyed watching Talrand for the second time. If you're curious, you can always go back to the first video to see what differences there are. But yeah, definitely a thinking man's deck, and I think you'll really appreciate what kind of deck I've built here. It's fun, requires a bit of you shouldn't be tired when you play this. Did you know that you can help my channel by watching another one of my videos? Go ahead, you know you want to.